Local Justice, presented by Elrod Law Firm, serving our community since 1980. Here's your host, attorney Ben Leader.
Welcome to Local Justice, where we dive into the issues and talk to the people most impacting justice here locally in York County and beyond. Today, I'm honored to have with us a phenomenal attorney out of Columbia, who's also a partner at Castle McVeigh Law Firm. Please help me in welcoming Jamie Rutkoski to the show. Jamie, thank you for being with us.
Good to be with you, Ben.
Yep, so glad to have you here. Jamie's been a close friend and a colleague, and our law firms have worked together for several decades, so I'm excited for everyone to get to meet Jamie and to hear a little bit about her background and her passion for justice and for the law. So let's dive right in and start by just telling us a little bit about your journey, where you grew up, kind of what your background was, and what ultimately led you to law school.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm actually from Clearwater, Florida. I went to college at the University of South Florida in Tampa, and I was a history major. I'm actually the first lawyer in my family, and I say that because prior to college, I had never met a lawyer in my life. I was actually a nanny in college to a family, and both the parents were lawyers. So they famously tell the story that when they interviewed me for that job, I'm with their young kids, and they asked me, so what do you want to do with your life? And I deadpan to them and I say, I want to be president of the United States. So they thought that was hilarious. They hired me anyway, and I spent a great 4 years with them. And so they kind of encouraged me to go to law school. I was a history major in undergrad, American history major, and I absolutely loved it. But shockingly, there's not a lot of business opportunities for those who have
Absolutely.
a history major.
I was a political science major, and it was
So
kind of go to law school or go teach. It was kind of what I was told.
And so the problem was that I was so burnt out after undergrad with education. And so I thought, I'm going to just go and find my way in the world. And a couple of years of, working in marketing, sports sales, I decided I really did have a passion for the law, for history, all that kind of stuff. So I went and applied only to the University of South Carolina, go Gamecocks, and ended up here, and here we are.
All right. Well, during your time at law school, was there any kind of pivotal moment that said, this is the type of law I want to practice, injury law in general, medical malpractice, medical negligence? Was that something that you knew all along was the direction you wanted to go?
So it's funny you ask that, because I think there's kind of two pivotal moments. I was certain, and I think this might be common for folks who go to law school who don't have exposure to lawyers.
Sure.
Most of what we know is criminal law. That's what we see on TV. That's what's shown in the news most of the time. And so I was certain that I was going to work some aspect of criminal law. I clerked at the Richland County Public Defender's Office both summers. But another thing that was pivotal for me is that I joined the mock trial team in law school, which is basically training to become a trial lawyer. And I learned a lot there. I was exposed to civil litigation through that. And eventually after law school, I took a clerkship, which again exposed me to more civil litigation as well as criminal law. And that's when I kind of found my niche and what I was interested in.
And just to touch on your clerkship, you actually clerked for Chief Justice Toll, I believe, and so I'm sure that was a phenomenal experience. I'd love to hear briefly kind of how that impacted your thoughts on justice and what you wanted to do.
Absolutely. So I clerked for Chief Justice Toll as well as Judge Cooper out of Camden, South Carolina. At the same time, they were both active retired judges. They had met the required retirement age. So I worked for both of them. So I got exposure to a lot of lawyers, a lot of criminal law, civil law, construction law. It was an excellent opportunity to have two judges with the amount of experience and knowledge that they had, who felt invested in me and felt really invested in their jobs and how important the judiciary is and how important litigation is. And making sure things are as fair as they can be was the best experience. Chief Justice Toll, particularly, she runs the entire asbestos docket in South Carolina. And we are seeing lawyers from all over the country in very high stakes, high value cases. And it was an excellent, one of my favorite parts about that is, she was on the Supreme Court before she was working on the trial bench. So folks will be arguing cases in front of her, and she'll say, yeah, I know, I wrote that case. It was a great experience. I could not have had a better year. That is just invaluable to my knowledge and my experience as a lawyer.
I tell people all the time, I think clerkship was probably my favorite year of my life. And the relationship you get to form with a judge is just so unique and,
Yes.
and so special, and you get to see so many types of law, good lawyers, bad lawyers, people that have good reputations, people that not so good reputations.
Yes.
And
What to
really
do and
learn.
what not to do.
That's right, that's exactly right. And that's really where it kind of hit home for me, what I wanted to do as well. You kind of figure it out after seeing it. And a lot of people go into law school thinking they know what they want to do, but you really often don't until you actually get some exposure.
Couldn't agree more. I mean, I think just exposure to things and keeping an open heart and mind to everything is really important for all lawyers.
Absolutely. Well, 2018, I think, was when you joined Castle McVeigh, and I have to give a huge shout out to your law partners, Teely and John Castle and Teely McVeigh, two of the finest people and the best lawyers I know, and I've been able to work with them some since my time at the firm, but my dad worked with them for decades and decades, back to 2001, I think, and so would love to hear about your experience joining the firm and what type of mentors they've been to you.
I could go on and on about this segment. So Teely and John are, I couldn't say it better myself. They're just excellent lawyers. They care about what they do, but they're even better people. So to have been so lucky to be invited into a law firm where we have matching morals, values, we want to do what's right, we want to fight hard, and we have to make money at the end of the day, but their morals and their values and what they care about, we all match. We're all on the same page. They care about each other. We care about our staff. It's just, I couldn't ask for a better place to work and with better people. Mention your dad, who was the best of the best. Teely always says how he was an attorney who had experience and invested in her early in her career. And I remember when I started at Castle McVeigh, we work a lot on a lot of cases together. And as Teely got busier and busier with the asbestos world, Jack would call me and start investing in me and trusting me with cases. And Teely and John are the best of the best. I couldn't ask for a better place to work. And your dad did a lot for both Teely and I's career. So.
Well, it's great to see the culture they built, the firm they built, and then now the next generation in line to see it move forward. So we've covered a lot of your foundation. We're going to take a brief break from our sponsors, and then we want to dive into a little bit more of your practice and some thoughts on justice. So thank you for being with us, and thank you all for tuning in to Local Justice. We'll be right back with Jamie here soon.
As soon as I contacted Elrod Pope, they handled everything. Without Elrod Pope's help, I'd have been paying hospital bills for years to come. Elrod Pope just took the stress and they put it on their table and took it off mine.
Coming to Elrod Pope, I didn't have to worry about anything. Everything was taken care of. It put me in a real calm state because I had someone on my side. I knew that I was in the right hands. It felt great.
We know the type. You like to start early, finish late, make lemon squares, and make payments to the college fund from anywhere in the house. We know you rely on Comporium for the things you rely on most, like a view of the backyard. That's just a bunny, and hundreds of channels to watch, whenever you want. So you may think of us as just your internet company, but we're more like the I didn't know they could do all that company. Comporium, always ready.
Coke Zero is now Coke Zero Sugar, with great Coke taste. Some people were excited to hear the news, some were skeptical. So we're not going to have the star of the show you're watching come out and say, "You'll love it." No special jingle written by this week's hottest pop star. No famous internet celebs who happen to be holding the label just so. Okay, maybe just one little pour shot. The only thing that will make you believe Coke Zero Sugar has great Coke taste is trying it yourself. Ice cold Coke Zero Sugar. Try one today.
Being there for someone in their time of need is what Green Funeral Home has done compassionately for 4 generations. It's a privilege we take very seriously.
We believe each life should be honored and remembered by family and friends. Whether you choose traditional burial in our chapel or another venue, or cremation provided by our on-site crematory, we will help guide you through each step to ensure your needs are met.
We are also available to discuss pre-planning. Peace of mind that you have helped your loved one by making those difficult decisions.
When the need arises, our family is here for your family.
At Founders, we know your finances matter. That's why we have loans for any reason.
Can Founders help us with our mortgage?
Of course.
Can Founders get me an
auto loan? Not a problem.
Nice.
Can we do something about this?
Home improvements? Absolutely.
How about just getting ahead?
Pay down some bills? We can do that. When you need a loan, our great low rates give you the opportunity to invest in the most important thing, you. So relax. At Founders, we're with you every step of the way.
Live Strong at the YMCA is a lifesaver for so many people.
I love Live Strong because you meet so many people, you learn how strong you can be physically and mentally.
The camaraderie and the closeness that you feel and come together as a group is just amazing.
We meet them where they are and we work with them to help them get stronger.
At the YMCA of Upper Palmetto, we are proud to offer our community the support of the Live Strong program to all cancer survivors. For more information, visit your local branch.
Hi, I'm Ben Leader and welcome back to Local Justice. Today we're honored to have Jamie Rutkoski with us from Castle McVeigh Law Firm in Columbia. And Jamie, thank you again for being here. I'm glad to have you on the show. And I've known you for years and I know how passionate you are about justice and ensuring that it's served for all of South Carolinians and that there's equal access to justice. And would love to hear a little bit more about, what justice means to you personally and what it means to your practice.
Yeah, and so I think there's a lot of ways that can be answered depending on who you ask. A family law attorney and a criminal law attorney are gonna maybe have different answers than I have to this just based on what they're exposed to every day. For me, and in civil litigation and kind of the practice I do, it's just making sure that when someone is harmed or injured by someone that they're made whole, whatever that means. And that could be anything from as small as, somebody who has something wrong with their vehicle and the insurance company is refusing to fix it. And the fact that I can just write a letter and hopefully get that done for them, that is very important to me because that's very important to the client in that moment. And that goes all the way up to, when we're dealing with medical malpractice cases and, somebody's husband dies in surgery unexpectedly, what does that mean to make that person whole and getting them answers and making sure that people trust the systems and feel that the wrongdoer has taken responsibility for that wrongdoing.
And I think accountability is really a
Yes.
huge piece of it. And in our roles, a lot of times we are representing individuals, small, people against these, larger, powerful corporations. And, can you talk a little bit about just the mindset that kind of goes into that?
Yeah, and I will say, part of our justice system in the United States of America, I trust it on many levels. And so I think when going up against big corporations, the biggest thing that we're facing is the endless resources a lot of these folks have. And you're just gonna have to put in the time and the effort and the grit to make sure you're matching the resources that are coming at you. And that can be tough, and you just have to do the work. You just have to put your head down and do the work. But knowing that the court system and the justice system, while not perfect, I firmly believe is the best in the world. And knowing that we can get in front of a jury of our peers and tell our story and get the information that we need to get makes it worth it in the end.
Absolutely. And a jury trial and trying a case, it's really hard work. I mean, I know there's a lot of talk and concern of frivolous lawsuits, but I would invite anybody to stand in front of 12 strangers in York County or Richland County or Lexington and try to convince them to award somebody something that doesn't have merit. Because
Absolutely. And part of that is trusting juries.
Right.
I trust the citizens of South Carolina that are called to jury duty. They want to do the right thing. And if it is a frivolous lawsuit, they will represent that. They will give you no money. They will, give you a defense verdict. And trusting juries to sort that out, I think is a huge part of how much I trust our system.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And, one of the key pieces of that, I think, is the jury being able to have the power to have decisions, to make themselves and to have all of the evidence needed. And I know a lot of the laws that are proposed nowadays, limit what the juries are able to hear, limit the damages that they're able to award. And I very much believe in the jury system as well and think that, the power should remain with the people and
Absolutely.
not hamstrung by laws.
Could not agree more with you there.
Well, want to talk specifically about your practice areas because I think you've built a real niche for medical negligence and specifically nursing home cases. Could we maybe start by just touching on maybe some of the misconceptions about medical negligence?
Yes, especially with medical malpractice cases, one of the things I have to explain to most people that call, and I'll start by saying we get a lot of these calls, and I would say we have to turn down 90 to 95% of folks who are calling about medical negligence, and there's a lot of reasons for that. One, a bad outcome doesn't necessarily mean that someone did something wrong.
Sure.
And it's hard to explain that to folks. You hear that there are risks and you hear that bad things can happen, but when it happens to you, it's jarring. Another issue that we face a lot is that there is medical negligence. The doctor did mess up, the nurse did mess up. However, you're okay. Mm-hmm. And while that still may be an issue that needs to be reported somewhere or discussed with the hospital itself or the nursing board, the medical board, that doesn't necessarily rise to the level of civil litigation.
Right. They should be grateful they don't have a case.
Right. And it's hard to explain that to someone when
Yeah.
they feel so wronged.
Yeah.
I think in large part, a lot of times people want answers. So I try my best to at least explain, if I can't take your case, this is why, this is what the law says, this is what actually happened during this surgery or during this procedure or what have you. And hopefully at least get them answers to why that is that way.
Absolutely.
But it is hard. With medicine, if you're not a doctor, it's hard to understand everything that's going on in such a short time frame when something happens. So I think it's important, like you said, to get people answers and have them understand what happened, but also hold people accountable when it does reach that level.
Absolutely, and nursing home is in particular, strike a special place in my heart when it comes to justice because, that's some of the most vulnerable, adults in our country, many of which have spent years, working and serving the country, and, we want to ensure that justice remains throughout the entire course of the duration of their life, even in those late stages. And I know that work in particular is extremely difficult, but it's also extremely rewarding.
Yeah, and one of the things I always say is, I feel like a society can really be judged by the way they treat their elderly and their children. And so when we have these instances, and there are some great nursing homes, and there's a lot of great people who work in these nursing homes that are not given the resources that they need as a nurse, as a director or what have you to provide the care that they need to provide. It's these big corporations
Right.
that are
Private equity.
Yes,
Yep.
yes, and so that fuels me a lot in cases like that of these poor nurses are getting thrown under the bus for doing everything they can with the few resources they're given. But those cases really hurt and the families I feel even more horrible for. They often feel guilty for ever putting their family member there. Sometimes you don't have another option.
Yeah.
So I do get very fired up about those cases. And honestly, with both nursing and medical negligence, one of the biggest hurdles that I face all the time is the limits on what we can recover based on the statutes that are in place now. So, yes, your husband that you have 2 young children with has, died as a result of medical negligence, and I can only get you XYZ because that's the law. I can't, no matter what the value is, no matter how many, what his income was or what you have, this is all you can get, and that's another hard conversation. That
No matter what a jury unanimously wants to award somebody, the law, caps that.
Caps that.
Yeah.
So.
And that results in some really, really harsh circumstances.
Yes, and tough conversations.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you've made a great reputation for yourself in the courtroom. You've also been a great leader in the community and in several organizations, and I want to talk more about that in our final segment. And so thanks for being with us on this segment. We'll be right back with more local justice.
As soon as I contacted Elrod Pope, they handled everything. Without Elrod Pope's help, I'd have been paying hospital bills for years to come. Elrod Pope just took the stress and they put it on their table and took it off mine.
Coming to Elrod Pope, I didn't have to worry about anything. Everything was taken care of. It put me in a real calm state because I had someone on my side. I knew that I was in the right hands. It felt great.
At Palmetto Pride, we know we have a choice. The choice for a cleaner South Carolina. And it's an easy one at that. Don't litter. No grand gestures or heroic efforts here, but the outcome still has monumental impacts. When it comes to our state, every choice counts and every action matters. From the great outdoors to parks next door. From Main Street to your street, all it takes is a little bit of pride to keep South Carolina beautiful.
When a catastrophe hits, it can be a very stressful time for you. When you have trees on your house, when you have trees on your cars, and you don't know what to do, you call us.
We're not a 1-800 number, we're an 803 number. We've been in business for over 60 years because we take care of our clients. That means taking care of them during claim situations.
We're not 9 to 5, we're 24/7. We're gonna be there when you need us most. Gill Insurance, your local auto owner's agent. Understanding business is how we do business.
I didn't go off the rails too much.
No, that was great.
Okay, good.
I think you're doing great.
Good,
I think it's going really well. So
I'm trying to like not get any red flags from the legislature by any of my comments.
No, I love you're short and you're sweet, which is awesome. I literally did this with Tommy, and we did 2 shows, and I think I asked a total of like 4 questions. Yeah, and I'm just like trying to like look at my list of 12 questions, and we're on 1, and they're telling me like
3 hours in.
You're out of time. I'm like, I just asked where he grew up, but.
God, I love Tommy. Man can tell a story whether you want him to or not.
Oh yeah, I can tell most of them for you.
Wow, I miss him. How is everybody doing? Sorry, I should do this after.
Yeah, we'll do that.
Okay.
Yeah, sounds good. Well, I think we're ready to rock and roll and bring it in for a landing. Hi, I'm Ben Leader, and welcome back to Local Justice. Today we're here with Jamie Rutkoski, who we're honored to sit down with and have a conversation with. We've talked about her background, what led her to law school, and her role at Castle McVeigh. We've also talked about her practice areas, including medical negligence and nursing home negligence. I want to talk a little bit more about her involvement because she is very involved as well. She is the chair of the Young Lawyers Division with the South Carolina Association for Justice. I'd love to hear a little bit more about that experience. I can sense the passion just oozing out of you every time this subject comes up, and I know you get a lot of joy out of this.
Yeah, no, I love being part of that organization. There's a lot of really good lawyers and advocates in that organization. Like you said, I became chair of Young Lawyers last year. There was a lot of turmoil at the State House this year, so all of our time was spent on that and making sure that injured South Carolinians were represented well at the State House in the face of some really tough laws. So we did a really good job with that. I hope we continue to do that and make sure that we are protecting South Carolinians all the time. This year, what I'm hoping to do, I'm kind of close to aging out of being able to be in Young Lawyers, but hoping to get more of the law students involved, really make sure that we're exposing what type of advocacy SCAGE and plaintiff lawyers are doing across the state to make sure that we have everyone in the fold and doing what we need to do to protect South Carolinians.
And I know part of that's the inaugural Leadership Academy, I think, that the organization has put together, and I know you're a part of that too. And
yeah.
I love this because I know in South Carolina, the bar has always been a very tight-knit community, very cordial and professional, and I've been a part of other states that may not necessarily fall into that category. And I think the more growth that comes into South Carolina, the more of a concern there is, is our bar going to remain what it's always been? And I think by developing the next generation of leaders and letting them learn from you and Teely and John, we're setting ourselves up well for that to continue.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm from Florida, and their bar is huge, and it creates a very tumultuous litigation group. And so I hope that we avoid, I love being a lawyer in South Carolina. I get along with 95% of the lawyers that I come in contact with for or against me. And the Leadership Academy really helps you, just keep things in perspective. When I think this goes for all young lawyers, up and coming lawyers, I've been doing this for 8 years now, but just making sure that you're looking at the big picture and making sure that your leadership reflects generosity, kindness, and still gets you to the goals that you want to be at. So it was a great experience, the Leadership Academy, and I'm glad that we had that this year.
100%. And in addition to the state level, the South Carolina Association for Justice, you're also involved on the national level in the American Association for Justice. Could you just touch on that organization a little bit?
Yeah. Again, hearing from and being exposed to lawyers across the country and getting together and talking about what kind of cases you're facing, what kind of issues you're facing, I think is helpful to people, United States citizens across the entire country, right? Anytime someone gets injured and there's new litigation tactics, from insurance companies or from big corporations, it's really important to make sure that we're talking and learning from each other, doing things the right way, doing things the ethical way, to make sure that, again, injured folks are made whole when, especially against these big corporations that are trying to sometimes avoid responsibility and things that they've caused. So the camaraderie with AAJ and what you learn just from hearing other people's goods, bads, and uglies is extremely helpful and, again, invaluable, I think, for growth.
Absolutely, and you know, the attempts to restrict the jury's abilities is a fight on all fronts, including the state and the federal level, and
Yes.
so it's great to be working on both ends of that.
Absolutely.
Given your line of work and the type of cases you handle, it's very heavy. They're very tough days. How do you strike balance and, you know, being able to turn things off and, you know, have a quality of life without being weighed down by some of these, you know, just terrible tragedies?
Yeah, I don't know that I have the perfect answer for it. I try to step away when I can. So I try to go to the gym like every day, and that is just, it's a group of people I work out with. That camaraderie is good, and the physical exertion obviously is, you know, I hear it's good for my mental health. That's what the experts say, so I'll trust them. And also just, I travel a lot. My husband Josh and I travel a lot, and see our own personal community, you know, people who are my champions and support me, and you know, I try to do the same for them, but having that kind of level-headedness and my family, my friends, and having time with them to enjoy things, I think is really the only way. You know, people are coming to us with one of the worst, if not the worst, situations in their life usually.
Sure.
And it's a privilege to be a lawyer that gets to do that for people, and I don't take it for granted, and I just remind myself that, you know, I have the privilege to help these people seek the justice that they deserve, and I hope to never lose sight of that.
That's fantastic. Any words of advice you would offer to a young student who's interested in law school, interested in the practice of law in today's world?
Yeah, absolutely. Law school was the best thing I ever did. I know the joke is that if you ask a lawyer, they tell you not to go to law school, and I couldn't disagree more. Being a lawyer, the knowledge you get from law school, the exposure to life that you get in law school and what's going on in the world is great. My advice, I guess, would really be to keep an open mind, learn how to be coachable. It's hard to take critique, but the only way that you can continue to get better and be better at anything, but particularly as being a lawyer and a litigator, is to listen to people who've been there. You can be smart, you can learn things, but you're never going to be able to have wisdom without experience. So the people who have it already get better. And John Castle, I'm doing my best every day. But being coachable and being able to listen to those who want to help you is really important.
And then kind of to wrap things up, you know, what legacy do you hope that you will leave and that Castle McVeigh will leave kind of in the wider legal community and the state as a whole?
That's a great question. I want to be known for fighting hard but doing it the right way. It's important for me to that my clients feel well represented and that they know that I will fight to the end for them. And while the other attorneys know when I'm pushing something and when I'm going after something, it's legitimate, it's, you know, I want to have a respect and camaraderie and be cordial with those folks as best that's available.
Yeah,
so
that's great, and your mentors have done a great job of
the best of it.
laying the foundation for that.
Yes,
so
yes, they are the best at it. I agree with that.
Well, thank you for sharing your story and your insights with us today. You've clearly already made a tremendous impact in the legal community here, and I know that the best is still yet to come, so excited to be able to continue to follow your career and all the successes that are going to come. And again, thank you for your time today, and thank you all for tuning in to another episode of Local Justice. We'll see you next time.